6 o'clock, I would call the Yellow Medicine East School Board meeting for August 8th, 2022 to order. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call of board members. Start with Director Zempel.
Matt Zempel.
Dawn Odegaard.
Sharon Rupp.
Sonia Peterson.
Jeremy LeBlanc.
Amanda Lacey.
Ron Winter.
All members are present. Next item is approval of tonight's agenda. I have no changes, so is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Zempel.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Tonight I will read the Wyoming mission statement. Our mission is to provide a caring environment of high expectations that prepares every student for a successful future and instills the value of learning. Public address to the Board of Education. No one present. Nothing written in. Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 7, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which consists of approval of the meeting minutes from July 11th, approval of the board work session minutes from July 27th, approval of payment for claims, approval of finance report, and approval of preliminary enrollment report?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by LeBlanc.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We're on to reports, and we'll start with I think Jana Anderson, middle school, high school principal, did a written report, a brief written report. She's not present tonight, so.
Unfortunately, Jana is unable to be here tonight due to some family situations with the recent passing of her brother and the funeral tomorrow. So I hope everyone will keep them in their thoughts and prayers. Keep all of them in their thoughts and prayers. But she submitted, just as a brief overview, she did hit the ground running. As anytime you take on a first year job with no experience as a principal, it's like drinking water from a fire hose. So we'll have to be patient. I think Brennan left us in a pretty good spot in terms of the schedules. Did those come out today? You know, they were either to come out today or tomorrow. So, okay. So they will come out tomorrow. It's probably hinging upon our approval of the student handbook, because I think that will be part of that comes out to you. So just kind of give you an idea of some of the activities going on in there. Lisa will have a little bit more detail and probably will tie in a little bit of what's been going on between the two of them. Again, I appreciate Mrs. Hanson collaborating with Mrs. Anderson. That's what helped Brennan experience less of that first year issues and drinking from a smaller fire hose, but it's still a fire hose. It is, I can't even explain the first year of a principal. I thought my job as a first year superintendent was daunting, but it is different for a principal. So we'll just continue to support her, and hopefully we'll see what we expect when we saw what we can see what we saw when she interviewed. So, all right.
Okay, then we will move on to Burt Rainey Elementary report with Mrs. Hanson.
Good evening, everyone. I have a couple of recaps from Burt Rainey summer activities I'll start with. We had a number of programs. The last one will be wrapping up actually this week at Burt, Rainey. Our Be Reading program, actually I take that back. Be Reading goes all the way through August. So Be Reading program is a reading program on Wednesdays. Students can come in. It kind of reminds me of the old Book It program that some of us participated in for Pizza Hut. You read so many minutes, you turn it in, you get a free menu pizza. By the way, that is starting to make a comeback. Yes, I just got some info on that. But anyways, our kids don't get a free pizza, they get free books. And so every Wednesday, we have our new book collection out in the entryway. And as of last week, we had given out, they had earned 269 books to date for the elementary. Fun in the Sun ran in the month of June, and that was the one that you may recall. There were a variety of topics, everything from Titanic to beach to camping, solar system, private investigator. We tied math and reading in. We had 66 students participate in that. Our reading intervention program will be wrapping up this week, and that is 27 student participants, and they received 9 one-hour sessions of Tier 2 interventions in June and then 6 in August. ECFE has been very busy this summer. They had 10 summer classes with anywhere from 21 to 28 children attending each of those. They recently did a car wash out on the new preschool playground, and I know they had created a mini car wash, and so the students were invited to bring their riding toys in, and they had a car wash. So lots of participants in all of those activities. Camp Kindergarten is scheduled for next week, the week of the 15th, and parents of incoming kindergartners are invited to have their child participate. They either can pick a Monday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Thursday, and they come from 9 to 11 on those days. So as a new kindergartner, you would be in the building for 4 hours prior to the start of school. We started that quite a few years ago, and even after our first year, we saw a huge difference. A lot of the tiers that we might see on the first day of school, we now see on the first day of Camp Kindergarten, which is much easier for those little children than 300 kids coming through the doors at the same time, same with parents. And so they will come in for 4 hours, and they do everything from, they find their classroom, they find their locker, just some basics on how to do school. So the majority of our students are signed up for that. I do not have the exact number in front of me, but I think the last time I looked, it was over 75% of our incoming were signed up. Our Burt Rainey Playground met again on August 1st to review some updated plans. That committee, again, is made up of staff, parents, Board Member LeBlanc, thank you very much for serving. Students, we have a city council member and also admin. And right now we are digging deep into different options. We've got some specifics, and then what happens is plans come back. There's things we don't necessarily care for or we need more information on, so it goes back, and it's kind of a back and forth process. Learning lots. I don't know, Mr. LeBlanc, if you want to add anything to that?
No, I think the feedback in the committee's been good so far. We've kind of weeded through some things of what we would like to have, but then realized they were pretty darn expensive, and maybe we'll go in a direction that's a little more fitting for us. So, but I think it's been really good communication so far.
Thank you. Just some upcoming activities. We have Upper Sioux Community's Back to School Night is tomorrow evening, and I will be attending that. It's always a good time for me to see some of our students. They typically, Upper Sioux will provide some things for their students and families out there, and then we will have a table set up with everything from preschool registration, supply list, free and reduced applications. A lot of times we can answer questions, especially if it's being a parent of an incoming kindergartner. Just a great way to get out and see some of our students. Our Paraprofessional Workshop is coming up in August. And between our two buildings, Mrs. Anderson and I did a count. We have 26 of our paras are signed up, which I think is the most we've ever had. That will be going to Hanson that day. Burt Rainey staff will be participating in a Envision Math training on the 22nd of August. And we have just under 20 of our staff members certified that will be attending that. And everyone was invited to attend, but for example, preschool does not do that math curriculum, so they aren't attending. But most of our special ed is, unless they happen to be early childhood and it doesn't pertain. But Mrs. Hens has been assisting getting all of that organized and ready for staff, so we're ready to go with our new math, which is in-house, has been sorted, labeled, and has already been distributed to our teachers. We have new teacher workshop coming up on the 23rd and 24th. Currently, we have one new Burt Rainey teacher and then 3 from the middle school, high school, who will be attending. Their mentors also are invited in for part of those 2 days as well to make contact with them. We have PLC training, and a special thank you to Mrs. Hens also for that. She will be providing that for all of our PLC facilitators. They've all been invited to attend. Not all are able to, but I believe we've had a pretty good response to that. And I also linked our, and this would be both for Mrs. Anderson and I, our back to school staff development schedule, which is scheduled to begin on August 30th. I just wanted to bring one copy of the bathroom that you had given approval for. So the front is the old, I did get it before they got the stools taken out, but you'll see it's making some really nice progress. It looks really good. It's not done, but I would say the main parts are in. We're waiting on one more door piece to come in for the handicap portion, but it looks really nice. The Burt Rainey Lounge, the plumbing that is going to be worked on, they have not started that, but we did visit with the plumber last week and we are on the list. So special thank you to Francis for being on them constantly about trying to get all of our contractors back in. Burt Rainey staffing at Burt Rainey, all of our certified positions are currently filled.
Woo!
Any questions for me?
Any questions? I just have a quick question. Kindergarten, how many are currently enrolled? Do you have a number at all?
I do. Right now, we have 52 enrolled.
Okay.
So
And
sections are 18, 17, and 17.
now, is that what you were thinking, or less or more, or what's kind of what you figured it would be?
I think it's a little bit, originally I was thinking 50-ish.
Okay.
We also have had a few retentions as well, so that did push that up a little bit.
Okay.
You know, we've seen an influx of incoming, outgoing students in other grades as well, so I know today we had a few more that have come in. So, but yes,
Okay.
kindergarten is currently 3 sections. They are our only 3-section grade.
Okay, how about preschool? How are the numbers for preschool?
Preschool right now, as of today, we have 15 in the first Bumblebee, 15 in the second Bumblebee, and 14 in our Honeybee.
And the honeybee's at age 3? Is that what that one is?
There's a few 4-year-olds in there too.
Okay,
And so about 44 as of today.
okay. All right,
So,
thank you.
yes.
I was just curious on
So
that.
I want to point out a little about the preschool. That preschool, to have those options, allows us to bring in kiddos that might be identified for special education services. And so by having those options, that allows us to schedule them. So, and when we provide special education services, we receive full funding for them as special ed students.
Got it.
We do have preschool screening coming up, which I did not have on this list, but I believe that is, I want to say it might be the 23rd. It's in later August.
Oh, okay.
So typically, we would probably locate some additional students at that time as well, especially if they're new to the community. We're constantly seeking out any students that haven't had screening, and we do have probably less, ones that maybe could have had it during COVID and didn't, missed them when they were young, and so we're
Sure.
trying to get that in before kindergarten.
Thank you.
Yes.
What's the date on Camp Kindergarten again? I missed
Camp kindergarten is it starts next week, the 15th.
the 15. All right, thank you.
And that's either Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday mornings.
Okay, any other questions?
Just a comment, I think the Camp Kindergarten, just the fact that you're seeing less tears and less anxiety, I think that's just a really unique, neat thing that you do for those
That
kids and families.
idea came from our kindergarten staff
Mhm.
quite a few years ago, and it has paid off. You can tell it on the kindergartners, and honestly, even on parents, when they bring them in that first day,
Less
anxiety is way down. We practice how you find your classroom, how you go to breakfast, all of those things. How you use the bathroom, you know, when it's installed, some of them haven't
Right.
needed to do that before, so it covers a lot of things in those 2 days.
Thanks for the
Good,
update.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next report is Mr. Schneider with the district report.
So this letter was not just to represent what our meeting is brought to us by. This is what was on the front of our building. So as I sent out an update last week, what we're looking at doing, Denise had a fantastic idea. We'll put metal flashing or fascia, whatever it's called, there, and then we'll put vinyl lettering about approximately the same size on that, and we'll get a little bit longer life out of that. Plus, we know anything we adhere to the paint and/or I think there's some sort of cement or something on there that eventually pulls off. This is just not as reliable a system as vinyl lettering.
Say vinyl lettering, is it going to be like a flush vinyl, or will it be like a three-dimensional, a raised
No,
vinyl?
it'll just be a flush.
Just a flush?
Yep.
And that will...
White on dark, so the metal will be the darkest metal up there. So I think it'll stand out pretty good. It won't look as nice as this, but it's a lot cheaper than replacing all these too, and then eventually they're going to pull off.
And are we getting it from a company, or where are we getting this from?
Same company that did these.
The same one that did what lettering?
Okay.
This letter.
Oh, it's just they have a different style of lettering or something that we could use?
Different, well, it'll be the same font.
Right, but it's not...
It's vinyl.
It's flat.
not- Yeah, it's kind of like what you see as you come in that window. There is some vinyl lettering on those windows there too.
And it will hold up in the weather and the elements.
It's holding up on the windows.
Okay.
So I think it'll hold.
Be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Great idea, Denise.
And Jeremy.
And Jeremy.
Two of them were out there.
Yeah, they were brainstorming.
All right, just to kind of give you an update where we are at with staffing. So last week we did have a resignation from a special education teacher. We have not, to this point, received an applicant for that position, so we'll continue to pursue it. We're still looking for community cultural liaison. Those position is both in the middle school, high school here, and BRE, and then gifted and talented. We'll begin the process of hiring a custodian. We kind of delayed that so we can start them in September because we hired some summer work to cover down for that custodial position. So we'll look to fill that here in the next month and a half, as soon as school starts. Lunch program, finger scan. I did send out a letter to all parents to let everybody know we're doing that. That information will be maintained on our server, so that's not going out to the big World Wide Web, so that we have to worry about other people getting that information, but of course parents will have that choice. We're going to do our best to have it ready for lunch on the first day, but honestly, I'm not real confident we will, so we'll run a dual system where we'll have to have names there, and it may be a little bit, may need more hands on deck, so they might see Mr. Schneider down there trying to scramble and help with that to get that process
Can
for
I-
lunch in the first day.
Can Can I ask a couple of questions? How are you going, what finger are you using, and how are you getting the fingerprints from the students?
That's what we have to do. We have to take 3 different samples of their finger to get a good read on it. That's what will take the time. So they have to come in, the student will have to align, and then we'll draw their finger scan.
Do you know what finger you're using?
No, I do not. Is it the pointy finger?
Can any of this be done, like, any of those fingerprints done for back to school night?
We're going to try and get some done, but if you look at that, we're talking about roughly 700
Oh, right, but I'm just
times
thinking,
3,
see if you can get a
2100.
couple out of the way, so there's not
Yeah.
such a
We're going to try and
backlog at
take
lunch.
advantage of as much as possible. In the elementaries, we have a captive audience, so we think we can go a little faster with our elementary kiddos, we think, because we're going to go to the classroom with 2 devices. We did buy a backup device
Okay.
just for this purpose, so that in case something goes awry, we do have a backup system. But it's our first time doing
Right.
this. The majority of our area schools already are using this
So I was
system.
wondering, I was just gonna say that you mentioned that, so what kind of troubleshooting have they found? Because my first question goes to greasy fingers, like what if
Are you
they're...
cleaning this, too?
They're,
Yeah.
and like the
There
cleanliness of
is-
it, we've been worried about COVID and all this, and now we got multiple kids touching their finger, and then they're gonna go through the lunch line, and
There is a dish there for before and after.
the dish.
Yep, where they put their, it's just like sanitizer.
A petri dish. That's a good one.
What's that?
Amanda said it, it was all Amanda.
A petri dish?
So we're saying that
Okay, I don't know, a container?
these other schools are finding that this is very efficient, and they're not finding backlog.
Correct. Yeah, so part of the problem is, I know this is going to shock everybody, but middle school and high school kids tend to lose their ID. And so this will expedite that process a little bit.
The only thing,
So-
and you said, and I didn't read the whole letter because it came out just recently and I just saw it, but 2 questions. Can a family refuse to do the fingerprint? And B, you said it is maintained on our server, but how are we going to be 100% sure these fingerprints are safe and secure on our server and are not
'Cause it's-
accidentally
Yeah, because
out
it's
there.
maintained on our server. It's not,
to any
this
kind
stuff
of-
is not going out to the web.
It's an internal server.
In-
Yep,
Internal server.
And this is what
To the
all the other schools are doing, is
Okay.
it's, in fact, so the new data privacy statute
Mhm.
will not be impacted by this, because we are maintaining it here.
Okay.
And the letter that we received, it did say, as a parent, you can write a letter if you opt out of the service. But you have to write a letter is the only way
Yep, and so
that
then
you
your
can
kiddo
opt out
will
of it.
use like an ID number instead.
Okay, yes, but that's the only thing that they'll take is a written or a letter from the parent, is
Yeah.
the way I understood it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in talking to our tech people who also provide support for 2 other schools that are using it, they have not had anyone elect not to use it.
And it's, I think it's great if it's smooth and we can assure our parents that the fingerprints are internal and have no access to the web.
All right. So last week, the next item I have is a school safety letter. Last week, the School Boards Association and the Minnesota Association of School Administrators put out a letter for us to share with families. Obviously, with what happened in May, some of our families are concerned about safety. So that letter, which is attached here on Board Book, will go out tomorrow to our families to ensure that they understand that we are cognizant of these safety issues and we want to do what we can. Of course, we encourage them, and you should encourage them to contact us. Of course, we're not going to share the finite details of our plan, all right? Because that's feeding into somebody else's hand. That's not best practice. You have a general idea from what I shared in June and July So you have an idea of what our general plan is that we will use in case of those emergencies. Questions about that school safety letter? So the Minnesota Association of School Administrators, MASSA, actually has a PR firm that's working with them this year. And that's where this letter actually came from. They drafted it. I made a few tweaks to personalize it for our district, and like I said, I'm intending to get that out tomorrow or at least this week for sure. Building updates, Lisa kind of alluded to where we are at with some things. Unfortunately, it's like all other building projects. They give you a timeline and things don't show up on time. You order something and rather than it being the normal 1 month out, it's 3 to 4 months out. So undoubtedly, there will probably be some of our projects that aren't 100% ready. We will try and minimize the impact on people as best we can. So, the work session we had with SiteLogic in that meeting, Jake Berg did get me information today about their operating referendum, community engagement and support. So what he provided me with is that they have a team that can support us in that community engagement for our operating referendum. Their suggestion is that we don't muddy the water and try and do two things at once. So the community engagement would first support our operating referendum and what we would, what our community wants to see as our greatest priorities. It would involve 2 community information sessions, 2 print pieces such as a fact sheet and a smaller mailing, and 4 to 5 informational videos that would go out via social media about that. Those 2 community information sessions would then be used to gather information of maybe any misunderstandings, help us prioritize things related to our strategic plan, etc. They can develop a web page or we can host it ourselves. Basically, the biggest cost here is the travel. This all-in would be estimated at $25,000. So I spoke to a neighboring superintendent, and this is kind of the strategy they use also in their, at least for their facilities analysis and getting the communication out to their staff or to their community or stakeholders. Questions about that? Do you want me to have him draft up a formal plan that we might consider for our September board meeting? What would you like our next step to be with that?
Does he give you an indication if we can piecemeal it? If there's some we can say, yeah, we want that, or is it all?
I think it's an all-in.
All deal.
It's,
Okay.
you know, and I think you just have to be on them to make sure that that's meeting. If we need more things in there, more documents, greater emphasis. For example, the 4 to 5 videos obviously can only be informational. We can't go out there and, I can't go out there for sure and promote that this should pass. It can only be where it shouldn't pass. It can only be information for our community stakeholders.
Well, I think at minimum, we need a proposal from them in detailed format of what they plan to provide to us.
Okay.
I would agree.
And some information on their success rate
Yeah.
of helping these initiatives to pass.
So they're not usually, they don't usually jump into the operation or the operating referendum side. The majority of what they do is on the facility side.
Facility side.
But I think for us, we kind of need that piece to the operating side. If we're going to be
That's
so
true.
close with the building facility side. The public needs to know the difference between the two, like Don said.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
the big difference was that, one keeps the doors open and the other keeps the building intact. So I think that was a big learning curve for me, and I can't be the only one. So
Yeah.
if this proposal doesn't delineate the difference, then we have to figure out a way that we can get that message out about the difference, since we have both coming up to the community.
Yeah, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think it's important that we be 100% transparent in that, hey, we need this to continue to operate. Otherwise, we're going to have to cut positions or whatever we decide, or we don't need this, and then what do we do with our facilities? Unfortunately, I don't know that it's a crisp line between the two.
Right. Well, we need to be able to define what each of those referendums is for, so that the public knows.
Right.
And this will be part of their proposal, is separating out those two referendums and
Yeah, this would
clarifying
just be for the
information, or just for
operating referendum side, gathering people's thoughts, helping us prioritize what people want to know about.
And I would just restate what we talked about at the work session, that it's just super important that we get the community input on what they see and what their thoughts are before we make our final decision.
Could we use the time to also gather input for building?
They didn't recommend that because then it muddies the
Muddies the
water.
waters.
Yeah, and I think it could confuse people.
Right.
I guess I have a concern about only having 2 community sessions, because we have more than 2 communities in our district. And I believe that we need to go to them, because they will not come to us in some of the communities we serve. So, that's one major concern of mine.
I agree with that.
And that 25,000, that's just to take care of this operating referendum?
Correct.
I think too, we're gonna need
Right.
More details.
more detail from them as far as what steps they would do. Call it a actual proposal or
Yeah, it would be an itemized detailed proposal. of
Proposal
what they-
and-
What they would do and what they provide.
I feel like we talked about this a little bit with them. Did they say that they were going to give you one? An itemized detailed proposal, or did we just touch on it? I feel like we said that, unless we did it after they left it last year.
I think we did say that to them.
So, if it was Jake, I don't.
seems what they gave was kind of broad.
Okay.
Timelines maybe, too, would be helpful. I mean, what do they propose as timelines for some of these things they want to do, or they're suggesting?
Okay. I will get that off to him tomorrow. Minnesota student data privacy law, we have touched on this a little bit when we talked about the finger scan. It's important that we communicate. Part of this tonight and in some of the action items, we're going to approve addition to both the middle school, high school, and BRE handbook that will include statements to address part of this. And then before school starts, a letter will be sent out to inform our parents and will include a living document that will show what vendors we are using and have vetted against that. We won't use any vendors, to the best of our knowledge, that cannot do that. The majority of the responsibility is supposed to fall upon the vendors, but that also then means that we need to make sure that those vendors are on that list. A great example is JMC. They are on that list, so we'll need to use that. Seesaw, I believe, is a communication tool they use in the elementary. That's on that list, so they have been vetted already. But this also provides another layer for us as administrators, is that a lot of our teachers might try a free version of something, and they can no longer do that if it's not vetted. So we need to make sure that that process happens. Today, the Granite Falls Area Community Foundation did send something out about our teachers and grants, and lots of times those are the things that a teacher might request, is the software or some of those tools, those technology tools. And so we've added another step that they're going to have to get that approved through us before that. Otherwise, some of those unfortunately may not get approved by the Community Foundation. Or even if they approve it, we're not going to be able to accept it. So try and be ahead of that, out in front of that. Questions? The biggest thing, I think everybody understands this, is what these companies were doing is selling that information off. And so then our emails were getting spammed as a result of that. So hopefully that will slow that process down. Last Monday, a week ago, I went to the MDE Back to School Conference, saw some great sessions. It was nice to be back in person, and because a lot of things, we generally have 15 minutes in between sessions, and we do a lot of talking and sharing of ideas. And when I say we, superintendents and special education leaders. Next year, maybe I'll be able to convince, or I have been even asked, our principals to go with me, because there's often so many sessions I can't get to all of them, and could be some rich opportunity for them too. So, Pseo Expenditures, thank you to Jeremy for putting that together. Kind of gives you an idea. Our expenditures have gone up, as you can see last year. And when I say expenditures, that just means that's revenue we missed out on, because the state pays that directly. So $80,400.27 that we would normally get in general education funds actually went to our PSEO institutions. So it's a sizable amount that we lose in revenue. But they are great opportunities for our students. So, track update. I think last week in my weekly update I talked a little bit about that. We do have some bubbling on our track in year 2 of replacement of it, of a 7-year cycle. Unfortunately, in doing some investigation, Tim doing some investigation, we did find out that it is a latex track which was the standard many years ago when it was installed, but it's no longer the standard. Unfortunately, latex patching is a big challenge, so I had Mr. Knapper order a couple pails of poly, it's called, poly, to fix those areas. There is no warranty on the track, and in fact, the company that did do that is no longer providing those services. So Tim's going to try the best of our ability to do some repairs on it.
It's pretty expensive to get that track redone, if I remember right?
Yeah, 60 to 70,000, between 60 and 70,000 dollars.
Is that company still in business?
They are, but only doing tennis courts. So, And-
There was no guarantee in the,
no warranty on it. No.
and we used them because that's who we had used before?
Yeah, and could provide it. And in fact, the guy that Tim talked to said there's nobody doing that work anymore with the latex. So all there's left is poly, which obviously is petroleum based.
Some,
What are tracks being made out of?
you know,
There's still tracks out there. Is there a new?
Yeah, poly.
material?
so,
Poly.
Oh, everything's
So
poly.
probably 10, 12 years ago, all the vendors stopped doing the latex, except you can't put the poly on top of the latex. So you kind of got to start over with poly. So we're one of the last tracks still surviving on the latex piece.
I thought the track was still new.
It looks
You're
new,
looking.
doesn't it?
It does look nice. Yeah.
And so what's happening is we have water, vapor, water is permeating through the base, right? That's natural. With the poly, it breathes. It allows that water to escape without forming bubbles. Latex, that forms a bubble. And so every time it rains or we sprinkle our field, irrigate our field out there, we're putting water sometimes underneath that base. And then when it gets super hot, like it was last week, that causes those bubbles to exist. So we're going to do our best we can to try and prolong the life of that track.
would it help to do edge tiling to take that water away from the base?
I have no idea.
I don't know where you take it to.
Yeah. Do we have a drain on any of the ends that attaches the city sewer?
Probably.
I don't know. So the gentleman that came and we finally got to look at it, Tim finally got to look at it, said that they just did replace Marshall's track at a cost of $420,000.
For the
Says
poly?
expensive, yep, poly, yep, expensive piece of equipment for one sport, so track.
Wow. Great plan to try to patch the track.
We're
Yeah, I
going
support
to do
that.
our best, but
Make it safe.
it's $130 a pail, by the way, and so we got two of them. I'm hoping that gets us, we're going to try one pail before we open the second pail, so.
So when they fixed it the last time, did they feel we had issues starting that we typically were making close to 7 years, but yet they redid it the last time and we barely made it
They
a
told
year?
us the last time that our base would be done at the end of the 7 years. They knew we had a suspect base, but we all thought, just like our tennis courts, let's see if we can, 60 to 70 versus 420.
Does much of the community use that?
Yeah, almost
I know I've
every
been out
night.
there.
Like,
Yeah, I've been
probably
there.
tonight, if we get out while the lights,
Yep.
there's still sunlight out there, there'll be people out there walking. We ask that they move to the outer lanes, because lane 1 gets a lot of traffic, just for track purposes. So, yeah, it
Remember
gets
that
quite a
next
bit of
time.
use.
Great RCW, most of their competitions here.
I believe McCrae's had a track and they let it get away from them. And so now they're absolutely starting from ground zero. Whereas even if we have to tear it down to the base, we're not down to ground zero. So once you start letting those cracks, big gaps, and water get underneath, you can explain it better than me.
It's
You've
not the-
lost it.
It's not the freeze thaw.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
It is, okay.
Yeah. Right now, what we're dealing with is vapor, much like the blowouts of concrete.
Sure.
So that's water vapor. Incredible power.
Expands. It expands.
Yes.
Okay.
As Mrs. Hanson alluded to, the back-to-school night, we do have our event for our new staff members, so if one or a couple of you want to join us, the district buys them lunch on August 23rd at noon. We usually go to the golf course, right? And I suppose I was supposed to make that call. Oh, you did? Thank you.
11, and I believe it's 11:45.
11:45. So,
If you plan to attend, if you could let me know so I can change reservations.
At the golf course?
yep,
Okay.
just some lunch, and if you, I just think it might, no pressure, but it might be kind of a neat thing that you guys are supporting, you folks are supporting our newest staff members. And then we also have our welcome back on August 31st. We start serving breakfast at 7:45, I believe, is what's on the schedule, right? Or 7:40. But if you want to be there at 7:30 and help us start to serve, I believe we're going to try and do rolls, fresh rolls, right?
Not bagels?
Not bagels?
Not bagels?
Let's not talk bagels, all right?
Let's not bring it up.
She didn't want to do
30th?
this, and
30th?
part of
August?
the conditions were we would never do bagels again.
30th, August 30th?
Yeah, August 30th, which is Tuesday.
7:30
So, yep.
Tuesday.
Just a reminder from the resolution last month, remember that filing runs through August 16th, Tuesday, August 16th for open school board positions. So, sorry that was so long, but any other questions for me?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item is celebrations and recognitions, but we're going to take August off for those. So then the next item is committee reports. Negotiations committee met July 25th. We will talk more of that later. Do you think?
Yeah, when's
In
our next meeting? I forget.
August 22nd?
August 8/22?
I think it's 8/22.
Okay.
Yes.
August 22nd.
Yes, August
I
22nd.
don't think there's much of an update. We are continuing to negotiate.
Yep. And then the COVID leadership team met on August 3rd, 2022. Does anyone want to give a recap of that?
We're just bringing our criteria within the new recommendations from the health department, the Minnesota Department of Health, just lining up with what they recommend that we do for contact tracing and that kind of stuff. It's not going to be as detailed as it has been in the past, and it's kind of like the flu or the cold, where we're going to see more people continue to get it as it mutates, and we're gonna handle, if we see hot spots in classrooms and stuff, trying to get notifications out, just like we would for the flu or any other contagion. Pretty much sums it up, I think, unless anyone else has more.
I noticed that the immunizations were also discussed at that meeting, and so that was just all immunizations or vaccines that were missing, not just COVID.
Right,
Correct.
just COVID, so these are required.
Yep.
These are the ones
State
that are required.
Vaccines, and we're behind, just like a lot of the other school districts are behind, just because of COVID and people not getting other updated vaccines, and we're doing our best to get everyone in compliance.
Cassie mentioned kindergarten, 7th grade, and the senior class is
Right.
missing the majority of the immunizations.
Right. With kind of the standard where you have to get immunizations throughout your school career, pre-kindergarten, 7th grade, and again, meningitis at the end. Not many at the upper grade levels. And a lot of it's missing the second dose of 2 or 3 for the third
Series.
dose of the series. It sounded like.
She did.
Yep.
Did she say that?
Yeah.
That she was going to be sending letters?
Yep, they're
out?
going to be trying to
Because
follow up more.
Did she usually sends letters like to the kindergarten and then the 7th grade parents too, doesn't she?
Yes. So those went out, I believe, in
May?
July, I think
Was it?
July 11th, I think. I believe.
Okay.
So there might be a mad rush at the clinic.
Yep.
Not yet?
I'm not there, so if there is, that's just fine by me right now.
Just time for you getting back.
Exactly. Wait till I come back and then I will.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll move on to new business, personnel items, leave requests, and resignations. We need a motion to accept the resignation of kitchen assistant Rachel Steenerson and accept the resignation of BRE paraprofessional Kylie Pagan. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Zempel.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second by LeBlanc.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item are new hires. So we'll need a motion to approve the employment of co-assistant volleyball coach Ashley Soini, approval of employee reassignment from junior high volleyball coach to co-assistant volleyball coach Anna McCosh, approval of employment for kitchen assistant Kazar Smith, approval of volunteer trap team coach Tom Schmidt, and approval of employment junior high football coach Dylan Woodford. Is there a motion to approve those 5?
Motion to approve the new hires by Zempel.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Amanda Lacey will second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I got a question for the junior high volleyball coach, 2 co-assistants. Are they sharing one salary, or is that a salary full for each one?
Actually, it shouldn't be junior high volleyball, it should be JV volleyball.
Yes, one
And
move from
they are
junior high
sharing
to.
one salary.
Are you talking about the co-assistant volleyball
Yeah.
coaches?
Yeah, that's what it should be.
Right.
For
So I
Anna.
think his question is, are they each getting a salary, or are they splitting?
One
They're
salary.
splitting.
They're splitting.
Yep. So co-assistants splitting.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is approval of agreement with Countryside Public Health for nursing services for the 2022 to 2023 school year. I believe we do this every year. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a mo, go ahead. I'll make a motion to approve the Countryside Public Health Nursing Services contract.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Odegaard.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next is approval of interagency agreement with Prairie 5 Community Action Council Head Start for the 2022-2023 school year. I believe this is annually as well. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion to approve.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is to designate Rich Schneider, Superintendent, as an identified official with authority or an Iowa for Yellow Medicine East, and Denise Strike as the Iowa to add and remove names only for the MDE external user access recertification system. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Odegaard.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Second by Zempel.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is adoption of the Wyoming Safe Learning Plan. Is there a motion to approve?
Amanda Lisi will make the
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is adoption of e-learning plan for the 2022 to 2023 school year. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve by LeBlanc.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Zempel.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is the approval of the student handbook revisions. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Odegaard.
Second by Peterson.
Thank you. And these are the revisions that Mrs. Anderson.
The first
Provided.
one is just specific to middle school and high school, and the second
Okay.
one is for both
Oh,
handbooks. And we did, I believe I alluded to this in June and July, that this would be coming, so this will be added to each of those handbooks.
Okay. There is a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is to approve the supervisory confidential employment agreement. I believe that was explained on board book in detail. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Amanda Lisi will second.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is to approve the Wyoming Strategic Plan for 2022 to 2027. On board book is the newest version. We could approve this tonight, or if you would like to give yourselves more time to read through it, it's quite a lengthy document, quite in detail and intense, so we want to give ourselves some time to look at it till and approve next month. That will work too.
I make a motion to table to the next meeting so we have some more time to review.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Can
Here.
I interject a
You
little
bet.
bit? If you have
Please do.
suggestions, please get them to me in the interim, so that then in September we can kind of roll it out. And, you know, even timelines, I know, just a little background, I know there are some things we talked about at strategic planning work sessions that didn't make this document. Unfortunately, and she can attest, it's a lot bigger than what it really should be. We didn't prioritize, or I didn't prioritize, however we want to say that. So I want to be cautious in adding too much to it. Maybe there's some things that can be removed though too.
Yes. So as you read through it, you know, is there something that you want revised, removed, something more priority than others?
I think
Please.
if I remember right, too, from the strategic planning session, like, do we have more goals than most schools, or more objectives per goal than is
Yeah,
recommended?
that's why I'm alluding to.
Yeah, so when I started reviewing it, and
Like, holy
there's-
cow, that's a lot.
there's a lot of objectives, but do you remember what their target was? Like, was it 3 to 5 objectives per goal?
That's what I remember, was 3 to 5.
Something like that, yeah.
We have a lot of goals, though.
They're good goals.
Yeah.
But I think everybody, I mean, basically what we're trying to do is have the greatest impact on what's most important.
Right.
Mhm.
So there is a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries, and just please give Mr. Schneider feedback on that, and we'll look to approve that next month. Item number 10 is policy update. No items there. Discussion items. No items there. No correspondence. So that leaves the upcoming events as the Upper Sioux Community Back to School Night, August 9th, which is tomorrow from 5 to 8 at the Upper Sioux Multipurpose Building. Paraprofessional Workshop is August 17th in Benson. New teacher orientation is 23rd to the 24th. 6th grade boot camp, August 24th in the morning. Staff development is August 30th through September 1st. Back to school open house, August 31st, 5 to 7. Be there or be square. First day of the 2022-2023 school year, September 6th. Our next board meeting is September 12th at 6 p.m. And then at this time, we will go into closed session pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 13D.03, for the purpose of discussing the district's labor negotiation strategy related to the negotiations with bargaining groups. Upon reopening the board meeting, no additional business will be discussed.